across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It's that time. Have we got a show for you tonight? Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I am your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 10 o'clock. Stand by for 3 full-throttle hours of news, views and incisive debate. You know the drill. Get involved, get it off your chest, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. That's 0344 499 1000. It's Wednesday, April the 2nd. Here's what's coming up. As Donald Trump launches his tariffs show in a speech we'll bring you live from the White House at 9 p.m, the curtain comes down on the Elon Musk show. The world's richest man is stepping down from his chainsaw role as the head of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, amid fears that his fierce right-wing allegiance to Trump has wiped billions from his fortune and plunged his Tesla car company into crisis. He's going back to the private sector. Meanwhile, back in Britain, we cringe at the excruciating spectacle of two-tier Keir deluding himself that he has some sort of special relationship with the American president. So special, the American president is hitting the UK with crippling tariffs that will devastate the British car industry and cost at least 25,000 workers their jobs. The truth is, Trump likes weak, woke, free speech killing Keir about as much as he likes the weak, woke, free speech killing EU leaders, as in not at all, not one bit. He doesn't like Starmer. Where's that trade deal our pathetic Prime Minister promised us? Did you notice towards the end of last week, even the beginning of the week, we're hoping to get a trade deal in place by Thursday? Yeah, right. Didn't quite happen. Where is that trade deal? What happened to it? 0344499 1000. In other news, find out all about the £8 million scheme to return dangerous Albanian prisoners to their home country, which, 2 years on, has deported the grand total of 8 dangerous criminals. 8. That comes out at about £537,000 each. More than £500,000 each. Isn't that special? 03444 499 1000. Also tonight, a Talk exclusive investigation has revealed that foreign women who live here are heading back to their own countries to have their babies and then charging the NHS for giving birth abroad. This scam is costing UK taxpayers millions of pounds. Shouldn't someone plug this gap? 03444 499 1000. Plus, the MPs for Islam, representatives of the British people who campaign for first cousin marriages, blasphemy laws, banning the burning of the Quran, and a new airport in Kashmir. Who's at the helm of this worrying syndrome, where MPs in this country don't seem to care about this country, seem to think they're the MP for Muslim causes? Who's at the helm of this? Who else but old Magic Grandpa? Yep, it's Jeremy Corbyn, still crazy after all these years. 03444 499 1000. And another exclusive, the shocking cost of one town's migrants. Stay tuned for the price of Britain's asylum madness in a south coast town. 03444 499 1000. Also, the insanity of unconscious bias and the obsession with the alleged evils of white privilege. When is this nonsense going to stop? 03444 499 1000. I'll talk Prince Harry's racism, bullying and misogyny problems with reality TV legend and royal commentator Lady Colin Campbell. Lady C, and dissect and analyse Trump's tariff speech as he delivers it. Don't worry, you won't have to endure all of it, just the highlights. And we will analyse it as it unfolds before our very eyes. Look forward to that later on. Greg Swenson will be joining me in the studio. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Wednesday night together. And for the first hour, I'm very pleased to say I will spend it in the company of Talk's excellent international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Welcome, Isabel.
Good evening. I'm fascinated by this Trump-Musk story. I mean, I thought he'd last a bit longer, didn't you?
Yes, I did, and I suspect it's Elon that wants to leave, because he is literally hemorrhaging billions and billions of dollars. His business is in trouble. Tesla cars, that company is in serious crisis. I think he wants to go back and tend to his business. It's as simple as that. But for him, I suspect that the damage is kind of done, because what he's suffering is because, you know, lefties and middle-class liberals, particularly those who bought Teslas, don't like him anymore because of his right-wing allegiance to Donald Trump. Those who are sticking with the cars are putting stickers on saying, I bought this before I realised Elon Trump was mad, that kind of stuff. They're all, and also people are attacking his showrooms, setting fire to cars all over the world, and sales have gone through the floor. So I suspect Elon is a bit worried about his own money right now.
I mean, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because it's not like the guy possibly needs any more money whatsoever. And he's done what a lot of, obviously he's in a different league to most super rich people, being the richest man ever. But a lot of super rich people decide that they don't, once they get to a certain level, they don't need any more money, and to hell with business, and let's have some fun with politics. And kind of surprised that he didn't anticipate this. It's so obvious, you know. Anyone on the right gets this horrific level of pile-on, and if you're going to be that prominent and, you know, ride the wave like he did of the Trump ascendancy to power, it's kind of obvious that you're going to pay a really heavy commercial price for it. I thought he would have realised that and kind of priced it in.
I think there's a naivety about him, a kind of childlike naivety, and he's been having great fun, hasn't he, for the last year or so, dancing around, you know, with his MAGA hats and everything. He's really been enjoying himself, but he realises now that there's a sting in the tail when businessmen, the very, very wise businessmen who want to hang on to their money, never go into politics because it can only adversely affect your business.
That's absolutely right, but they don't have nearly as much fun. I mean, in the end, what's the point of all that money? You know,
I suppose you're right, yeah.
I admire Musk for having given it a go, you know, and he's really had a great lark doing it, hasn't he? And I just thought he would last a little bit longer, but I can completely see the damage that's being done commercially.
But I also think, Isabel, that he's done great work, you know, in tandem with Donald Trump. You know, I mean, okay, the chainsaw and all that kind of stuff, but, you know, boy, oh boy, could we do with what Doge has done in America here, you know, to go into some of these fat, bloated departments that don't really do very much, full of these civil servants who never turn up. I mean, we've got, I think it's 528,000 civil servants in this country. And we could do with an Elon Musk to take a chainsaw to them, not literally, but to, you know, cut them in half, save this country a lot of money. We are hemorrhaging money because of our hopelessly overstaffed, inefficient civil servants. But I'm afraid we have a Labour government and they love their civil servants, so it's not going to happen here.
Sure do.
Let's talk about, talking of Keir Starmer. I mean, how pathetic has this been for the last week or so? This sort of excruciating spectacle of this strange little man wandering around going, I've got a special relationship. I mean, even on Monday, this Labour cabinet was saying things like, we're hoping to get a trade deal in place by Thursday. Oh, yeah, that's going to happen. This guy, Starmer, and Lammy as well, we're really good friends with Donald. He won't treat us the same as the EU. Well, he will, and he's about to. And the reason is, despite Starmer's delusion and his fantasy about his friendship with Trump, Trump thinks exactly the same about Starmer as he does about his hated EU leaders. That, like EU leaders, Starmer is woke, weak, and frankly, an enemy of free speech. And the Americans hate those three factors, and we are going to get treated exactly the same as Europe.
Absolutely right. And I mean, I'd be very surprised if Trump spent more than about 5 minutes listening to a briefing from one of his aides on what does he need to know about Keir Starmer ahead of the meeting that he had a few weeks ago. Anything that he does hear about Keir Starmer, he'll know immediately that, you know, the two of them are not going to be aligned on really anything. And, you know, the so-called special relationship has been a bit of a fiction for the last few decades, really. Yeah. I think it probably existed under Blair and Bush, but I think since then it's just sort of faded away, really. I mean, it wasn't as if Biden had any time for us whatsoever, was it? Quite the reverse. And unfortunately, we have in Keir Starmer a prime minister that the US president is never going to have anything in common with. The idea that we're going to get a free trade deal by Thursday, I mean, it's just laughable. Yeah,
I tell you, for me, the lowest point in a very low-grade government in terms of Keir Starmer was when he grovelled over to the White House and disappeared up Donald Trump's backside. And J.D. Vance brought up the topic of free speech. Of course, Keir Starmer, no ifs, no buts. He's an enemy of free speech. He doesn't like free speech. He sends people to prison for exercising what should be their right to free speech. When J.D. Vance brought up the fact, you know, there's a problem in Europe, including Britain, with free speech. Oh, we're very proud in Britain of our long-standing commitment to freedom of speech. I mean, it's just nonsense. Trump and Vance, for that matter, the entire American cabinet, despise Starmer for his enmity of free speech. He doesn't like free speech, and they know it. So culturally, we are a million miles from this American administration, and the reason we are is Keir Starmer. And Keir Starmer, still cozying up to Europe, should be looking west, but is looking south towards Europe. And it is very worrying that his only response to these serious tariffs, which, as I say, they might put 25,000 people out of work in this country. They'll have a devastating effect on the car industry. And Starmer's only response is, we're waiting calmly and pragmatically to see what will come about. I mean, come on. We've got to do better than that, haven't we?
Of course we have, but I mean, are you surprised? This just isn't a guy that does anything, really. He just talks about doing things. I don't actually know what he's done so far, apart from make the economy a lot worse through Robert Reeves. Yeah,
and I think that it's really dawning on the public now that, you know, I know we go on about it, but my God, watching this government over the last week, right up till today, you know, with their nonsense about the tariffs, it's terrifying. They are utterly hopeless, out of their depth.
It really is. It's both terrifying and really, really depressing because of how long we've got to put up with this and the scale of damage that can be done. You know, when you see the amount of damage that's already been done in a relatively short period, it really is terrifying to think where we're going to be 2 or 3 years from now and what is to be the state of our country. And, you know, I keep hoping that it's possible to rescue, but certain things are not going to be that easy to reverse. They really aren't.
Yeah, and of course Starmer is and his crew are getting together a list of concessions, you know, concessions that we will make to America. none of which amount to a hill of beans, in order for them perhaps not to impose too serious a tariffs on us. But what I would do, what I would say to Donald Trump, because I don't think he quite gets this, I would say, Donald, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take no tariffs whatsoever, no taxes on American cars here in Britain. So you can sell as many American cars to grateful Brits as you like, and we will not charge you a dime or a penny, I suppose I should say, in this country. And Donald will go, yeah, great. What Donald doesn't realise is nobody in this country ever buys American cars, apart from Teslas, ironically. But something like that. But Starmer hasn't got the wherewithal to come up with that sort of thing. Listen, we better go to break. Before we do, though, I'll treat you to a little show. This is Keir Starmer strutting his stuff in Prime Minister's Question Time today in the House of Commons, telling Kemi all about the US trade situation. Take it away, Keir.
Labour's record is a car industry in crisis, even before tariffs. There are 25,000 more jobs now at risk. He says he's preparing for eventualities. Can the Prime Minister tell us exactly what he is doing to protect the British car industry from his failure to negotiate?
We're taking a calm, pragmatic approach and keeping our feet on the ground. It was the Trade Secretary, Mr. Speaker, who failed to get a trade deal with the US.
A calm, pragmatic approach. It is tragic. It is tragic. It really is. Isabel, stay where you are, and when we come back, we'll talk about another tremendous failure of this government when it comes to the escalating migrant crisis. You won't believe this one, folks. Stay tuned.
We're in for an extremely disruptive period and possibly a recession. And I don't make any moral judgments about that. I think there may be an argument that the neoliberal economic order needs resetting, that we do need all that onshoring that your caller just there was talking about. But the ambiguity is the problem at the moment, certainly for people talking about it.
The uncertainty, and again, it's all very well. I completely understand the urge to sort of like get companies, and this happened actually a lot in his first term in office.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. It's Liberation Day. Donald Trump will, in a couple of hours, deliver his tariff speech, imposing tariffs on American produce all over the world. It could cause trade wars. It could cause all sorts of chaos. But don't worry, folks. We're taking a calm and pragmatic approach. So we should be all right. Thank you, Keir. We are in the hands of a total idiot. Tell you. I'm still with Isabella Oakeshott, the Talk's international editor. You alerted me to this one, and you were quite right too, Isabel. Another stupefying snapshot of the dysfunctional chaos of Britain's hopeless handling of the migrant crisis. So a couple of years back, Rishi Sunak launched a £4 million a year scheme. And it was to get rid of dangerous Albanian prisoners. We've got something like 10,000 foreign prisoners in our jails altogether. 1,200 of them are Albanian, and 200 of them are extremely dangerous. We're talking about murderers, rapists, drug barons, really dangerous people. So the deal was that we would help Albania. By the way, helping to modernise their prisons. Why? Also, we bought for them a fleet of net zero electric jail vans that were made by Porsche. So we invested a load of money in them. This scheme is costing £4 million a year. So we're now £8 million into it. And after 2 years, the sum total of the dangerous prisoners we've managed to deport back to Albania is 8. If you break it all down, that comes to £537,000 per prisoner. I mean, this just sums up how aimlessly useless this country is at dealing with this ongoing and indeed escalating migrant crisis, doesn't it?
I mean, it's completely ridiculous. So I feel quite invested in this story because it was a few years ago that I did an exclusive story that exposed the number of Albanians coming over here on these small boats across the channel, which seems in a very bizarre way for them to come here. And the reason that they use this route is because invariably they are linked to organised crime, and they want to evade the normal routes of detection. And they know that once they're put up in a nice hotel, they can just melt away and, do whatever they're supposed to be doing for the gangmasters here in the UK. And after that, the whole Albania dimension to illegal immigration really rocketed up the agenda, up the news agenda. And Rishi Sunak responded with this scheme, which, as you say, was much trumpeted, continually boasting about this sort of radical new scheme and an initiative to cooperate with the government of Albania to sort this out.
Breakthrough, major breakthrough.
I mean, brilliant breakthrough. 8 Albanian criminals
after 2 years.
Bloody marvellous. What a fantastic use of taxpayers' money. And what the hell is the British taxpayer doing putting money into Albanian prisons? I mean, what? And why are we helping them net zero their police vehicles or prison vans or whatever that was? Just ridiculous. We cannot be the kind of charity of the world. This just isn't sustainable.
It seems to be our approach to the migrant crisis, our national kind of condition when it comes to this situation, that we just give loads of money to foreign countries. So today, France magically conceded that perhaps for the more than €500 million that we've given them to patrol their own beaches and stop the boats. Another one of Rishi's great initiatives. That was, 2 years ago or something. They did concede that today that perhaps they hadn't done enough. And perhaps they ought to do a little more for the money we've given them. But, even this ridiculous conference summit that he had, this Smash the Gang summit that Keir Starmer hosted this week in London, where the representatives of 40 nations came to London to talk about smashing the gangs. I mean, it involved us giving hundreds of millions to other countries. All we do is if we give you £20 million, can you stop your people coming to our country? Oh, yeah, thanks for the money. Yeah, we'll definitely do that. Thank you. Oh, that'll be good. We might as well set fire to this money. It is so impotent. Turn the boats round. Detain, deport, arrest these people when they get here. Don't give them 45 quid a week. Don't give them 4-star hotels. Don't give them lawyers, doctors, dentists, free food and anything they want. Try that. That might work, mightn't it?
Well, what we should actually be demanding from the French is an almighty refund. Never mind giving them any more. I think we should probably be suing the French for our money back, because it's not just that they haven't done enough for our money, it's that they've actually done the very reverse of what we were trying to pay them not to do. So instead of actually stopping the boats coming, there's ample evidence, including from the Sun newspaper's exclusive last week, that the French are actually encouraging these migrants to come to Britain. And why wouldn't they? Because it just waves the problem over in our direction. I get it. It makes every sense if you're the French, but let's not pay them to do this. And on the contrary, let's punish them if they do. And perhaps it's time to get really tough. Perhaps we should be using access to our fishing waters as a bit of a bargaining chip here. I mean, how about maybe if the French are not going to cooperate, and in fact they're going to actually do things that are the reverse and send migrants our way, maybe it's time we impound a few of their fishing boats. How about that?
Absolutely. Well, how about just turn the boats round, or even if they get to Britain, just take them back to France. Dump them on the beaches, hundreds of them. And when France say, well, what are we supposed to do with them? Well, we don't really know, but I tell you what you can do to look after them a bit. You can use some of that £500 million we gave to you. How about that? Exactly. As opposed to doing nothing for the £500 million we gave you. It's a joke. Now, if I hear one more cabinet minister, one more Labour idiot, or for that matter, Tory idiot, saying, what we've got to do is we've got to increase cooperation with the French. We have to sit down with the French. What is it about the French are never going to do anything to help us with the migrant crisis that these people don't understand? Why don't they understand this?
I don't know why they don't understand it. I know it's really easy to see, isn't it? I mean, you only have to spend a bit of time down there and talk to a few people to know what's going on. We know that what they literally do is encourage them to the midline and say they're going to be picked up. So on you go on your way, head over those waters. And on the other side is the land of milk and honey, which frankly, if you've come from Eritrea, it is the land of milk and honey, at least for a bit.
Let me tell you a quick story just before we go to break. I'm kind of doing a bit of a spoiler because we've got this exclusive coming up at 8 o'clock. But do you remember recently another one of our exclusives from the town of Folkestone, lovely seaside town with a port, obviously, on the front line of the migrant crisis. The people of Folkestone can see them coming across in their boats day in, day out. Anyway, we had a story about 2-3 weeks ago, very good story, that Kent County Council had spent over the past year more than £20 million giving asylum seekers, not people who've been given the right to stay here, just temporary migrants, driving lessons and driving tests. People of Kent paying for their £20 million in the last year. Well, at 8 o'clock we're going to reveal, this is a little bit of a spoiler, but what the hell. We're going to reveal what Folkestone's migrant bill, 60,000 people I think live in Folkestone, what that town's migrant bill has been for the last 5 years. £30 million. £30 million. One town on the south coast. We have to pay for this. And we have governments that do nothing about it. That's one town. I mean, we are being plunged into penury by hopeless politicians who show no resolve with this crisis. We've got to do something more than let's sit down with the French, let's give some other countries money, let's smash the gangs. No, turn the boats round, arrest these people, don't let them stay, do something, because they're not doing anything. It's getting worse.
Exactly, and maybe if he's going to be smashing the vile people smuggling gangs, maybe he should start smashing some of the people in this, I don't mean literally, just to be clear, that are feeding off this industry in the UK. How about these totally unethical lawyers that are making a pretty penny out of the public purse by trying to play the system year in, year out on behalf of illegal immigrants that they know perfectly well have no case whatsoever for asylum or should be deported on other grounds, and yet they take up these cases and they encourage the applicants to frankly not tell the truth, to make up all sorts of nonsense about the reasons they've fled from wherever it is they've come as an economic migrant. These are people who should not be allowed to get away with this ill-gotten professional behaviour. I mean, it's just awful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and we pay for them, the legal aid. I mean, the fact we got these people break into our country, these foreign criminals break into our country illegally, and then we, bestow upon them, hundreds of thousands of pounds each for their legal fees in order to fight their case to stay here. It is so ridiculous. And this is a classic Labour solution to the problem of the long asylum seeker list. So it's getting longer and longer and longer, 108,000, 110,000 people waiting to find out whether or not their applications will be approved of. So in order to speed this process up, Labour have it hasn't come into play yet, but it will at the end of the year. Labour's solution is give immigration lawyers more money in legal aid, and then they'll be more efficient getting through the asylum seeker cases. So that's Labour's solution. Give immigration lawyers more of government money. Good, isn't it?
Except it's not government money, it's
our money. Our money, yeah. It's just, it's perverse is what it is. It's perverse. Now, next up is, we've got an exclusive about the NHS, and it's a good one, so stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, this is a thing I didn't know about until a couple of years ago, when a friend of mine got sick in the south of France. He was on holiday down there, and he had to go into a French hospital. And of course, you know, you have to pay for it. It's private over there. It is for foreigners anyway. So he had some very expensive treatment over about 2 or 3 days. And I didn't realise, but because he's obviously British, NHS patient, when he came back to Britain, you could charge the NHS for your emergency medical treatment. So I think the NHS cops up about 25,000 quid for him. But that is what we are all allowed to do, and in some ways I quite like that. It's a nice safety net for British citizens when they're abroad if they get sick. But that notwithstanding, of course, it is a system that we now learn is being egregiously abused. Who by? Pregnant women. We're talking about foreign national women who live here. So they're foreign women, mainly Europeans, who live in Britain to have their baby. They get pregnant to have their babies. Fairly natural instinct, I suppose. They go home to their home countries to give birth. And then they sort of hang around with their families for a bit and all in the lovely baby. And then they come back and then they charge the NHS for having had a baby in this foreign country, their country. Now, you might think, oh, well, that must be rare. Not really. Over the past 5 years, 4,000 women have done this, and it has cost the NHS, as you quite rightly pointed out, Isabel, in fact, you, me, and every taxpayer in Britain, a staggering £3.1 million. So foreign women going back to their home countries to give birth, then coming back to Britain and charging the NHS for their troubles. Unbelievable.
It really is. It's so unbelievable that when I was tipped off about this, I literally didn't believe it. I was like, no, this is completely the wrong way round, because we also have women coming from Africa and all over other parts of the world coming specifically to have their babies in the UK. So that's the better known about kind of form of maternity health tourism. This is a sort of reverse of that. And in a way, it does sort of beg the question about the standard of maternity services in the UK. If people from Eastern Europe actually think, I think that we might actually get at least as good a care or possibly better back home. You know, NHS envy of the world. Well, maybe if you live in Somalia, less so if you're Polish and you're actually opting to go home to have your baby and then expect the rest of us mugs to pick up the tab. Quite extraordinary. So I sort of fed this tip off into the brilliant talk investigative machine, and we got back this data under sort of freedom of information, I think. Which
freedom of information request. I'll just go through some of the countries where their pregnant mums have been making use of this extraordinary system. Top of the list was Poland. 892 Polish women had their babies paid for by the NHS abroad, followed by Germany, 511, Slovakia, 481, the Czech Republic, 439, Belgium, 343, and this was all between 2020 and 2024. I mean, if you think about it, you don't need to go to Belgium, do you, to have you? These people are doing it, I think, purely for family reasons. You know, I'll go back and have my baby with my family. And then probably, let's be honest, raking in a bit of a profit with all of this, probably making a few grand as well. I mean, if you go back to have a baby in Poland and you'll say, shall we say there for, I don't know, 5 days, a week, I mean, that's going to rack up quite a big bill.
Undoubtedly so, and this is a sort of tip of the iceberg on the abuse of the NHS by all sorts of foreign nationals. You know, I recently found myself in accident emergency in Israel, and I'd had a minor accident, but I had hit my head quite hard. Nothing glamorous. I fell off an e-scooter, complete muppet thing to do, but I actually was...
I'm tempted to say serves you right, but I won't.
Well, I wasn't on any roads, let's put it that way, so I wouldn't have annoyed you, Kev. And what struck me about it, I was in quite a bad way, actually, but I went to a brilliant hospital there. But head injury or no head injury, and that's what I had, you know, although it was minor, they didn't know it was that minor. The first thing they do is ask you for your credit card. You know, you're not getting in without producing payment. And that is what we don't do here in the UK. And in fact, when I began looking into this sort of reverse maternity health tourism story, I discovered that there's, I mean, perhaps this is no surprise, there's a number of organisations and charities in the UK that are actively encouraging people to use the system in this way. I would use the word abuse. And what they trumpet is, you've guessed it, the European Convention on Human Rights.
Oh, of course.
And it is under ECHR, according to these various maternity rights charities, that anyone in the world can come to the UK and demand to be treated for maternity services. And under ECHR, apparently the NHS is legally obliged to provide that service. And if you can't pay, these charities tell people, whether they're or pressure groups, whatever they are, if you can't pay, you're still entitled to the care. So what the NHS does at that point is says, well, the cost of your care was £3,000. Here's the bill, but we know you probably aren't going to pay it, so we're discharging you, and we'll chase you up. We'll give you a call in a few weeks' time and see if you wouldn't mind paying. And of course, a lot of this never gets recovered.
Yeah, as you say, I mean, we know about the worrying syndrome of health tourists coming here because they know the NHS is free, so they trump up an emergency and go and get free treatment. But now we know it's going the other way round, but always the NHS picking up the bill. The sucker NHS.
Whichever direction it's going in, it's the NHS, in other words, us that picks up the bill.
That's the point.
No wonder the waiting lists aren't coming down very much.
Yeah, and no wonder today it emerged that satisfaction with the NHS, particularly due to dentistry and the waiting lists, is at an all-time low. So thanks very much, Health Secretary Wes Streeting, for fixing the broken NHS. Honestly, this lot couldn't fix anything. I was trying to think of an analogy there, but I didn't come up with one. I should say an NHS Business Service Authority spokesman, for it is, I guess, the NHS Business Services Authority who presides over this ridiculous system. This spokesman said, people must be legally resident in the UK to receive a maternity S2. Applicants are subject to a residency check. If they are not a UK or Irish national, they must supply evidence of their right to reside in the UK. Well, that's something, but I would suggest that we just end this system. It's ridiculous but mothers are clearly deliberately using it. If they happen to be, I suppose you don't accidentally give birth to you. Oh, I never saw that coming. So, but I mean, I suppose if they happen to have reasons to be in Poland or whatever at the time of their birth, okay. But they're clearly deliberately planning this, and I bet you they end up with cash in their pockets as well. It's a scam. It's a scam.
Undoubtedly, there will be some sleight of hand there. I mean, it's just obviously too good to be true, isn't it?
It sure is. It sure is. Listen, when we come back, Isabel, we're going to talk about. We mentioned it the other week, but I think it's getting very worrying. We talked about it the other day. These British MPs who are effectively MPs for Islam, who don't seem to. There's about 7 of them, and they don't seem to ever talk about any British problems. They just talk about Gaza, Palestine. They promote first cousin marriage. You know, they say, well, it's okay in Muslim countries. We should have it in Britain. No, it's bad for the kids. They come out not quite right, you know, so I don't think so. Also, you know, they want blasphemy laws back, so we can't burn the Quran. I'm not saying everybody wants to go out and burn the Quran, but if you want to, you should be able to, just like you should be able to burn the Bible. So they want to take us back to the Dark Ages, and now they're campaigning for an airport in Kashmir. I mean, this is... this is a worrying, I would suggest, abuse of British democracy. I don't quite know what we can do about it, but we'll talk about it after these messages.
And right now, when you think you've got the Houthi bombing various parts of the Middle East, attacking Western targets, when you've got Iran has been behind the whole threat and attacks on Gaza, when you see that the potential tinderbox of the Middle East, this is strategically probably the most important asset that the UK government has, other than the sovereign bases in Cyprus, and, by the way, that the Americans use massively. So this is one of the biggest blunders that any government has ever managed to engineer.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about the MPs for Islam, for they are a definite group in the House of Commons. In fact, they are technically the joint fifth biggest group in the House of Commons. They consist of Shaukat Adam, Adnan Hussain, Ayub Khan, Iqbal Mohammed. They've all been elected on independent tickets, many of them for Gaza, pro-Palestine campaigners. Now, in recent months, the MP for Dewsbury and Batley, a guy called Iqbal Mohammed, has pushed in Parliament for the legalisation of first cousin marriage, which is effectively incest and can cause bad physical and mental damage to the unborn child, so the children come out defective. That's why we outlaw it in this country. Iqbal Mohammed said, oh no, it's all over the Middle East and the Central Africa, they do it. The Muslims do it all, so we should have it in this country. I mean, obviously he got knocked back, but that is what he's using parliamentary time for. Also, we have Tahir Ali, who's not actually independent. He's Labour, but you wouldn't really know it. He's like the MP for Kashmir or something or other. He's the one who only recently called in the House of Commons on the Prime Minister to bring back the blasphemy laws and outlaw the burning of the Quran. in fact, of all religious texts. It's like I said, Isabel, you know, I don't go around saying, hey, everybody, let's go and burn some Bibles. I wouldn't advocate burning the Quran, but in a free democracy, a Western democracy, in 2025, you know, we should have the right to do that if we want to, as a protest, I guess. You know, it's 2025, not 1525. Also, now, our friend Tahir Ali, and he's been joined by some of these other MPs. By the way, guess who is the head of the Independent Alliance? It's Jeremy Corbyn. But anyway, they are now campaigning for an airport in Kashmir, a place called Napier, where Tahir Ali says, you know, my constituents, many of them from Pakistan, when they go back, you know, they have a 3-hour drive from the airport. We need a new international airport. I demand there is a new international airport in Kashmir. This is a guy who represents Birmingham Hall Green and Moseley, where currently, it being Birmingham, the garbage is up to here, literally neck deep in some places, and there are rats the size of cats running around the streets. And this guy says his major preoccupation is a new airport for Kashmir. You know, I suppose democratically they stand on these tickets. I stand for Gaza, I stand for Palestine. If they get the most votes, that's democracy for you. But I think it's a worrying syndrome that we have an increasing number of MPs, representatives of the British people, who seem to have very little interest in Britain and the British people. That's a worrying thing, isn't it?
It really is. So the question is, have these MPs forgotten where they come from? Have they forgotten that they sit in the British Parliament? Or is the problem that they haven't forgotten where they come from, and actually their primary allegiance is not to the UK and is actually to Kashmir or wherever else it may be that they are campaigning for? They will say, well, I've got, you know, masses of constituents from Kashmir, but fine, that may be all well and good, and I could understand why they might be representing those people on certain fronts, of particular interests within the UK. But I can't see any justification for trying to persuade other members of Parliament and indeed ultimately, once again, the British taxpayer, that there's a real cause for supporting a international airport in Kashmir, so that those constituents from Birmingham, wherever else it may be, are not inconvenienced on their journey back on holiday. Or is it journey back home? Which is it? Because that's at the heart of this, isn't it? Where do you actually live? What is your home country? What's a holiday? Or what is your real identity here?
Yeah, and what on earth is this guy Iqbal Mohammed, the MP for Dewsbury and Batley? What is he doing calling for the legalisation of first cousin marriages? I mean, you ask any doctor, that is quite simply a bad thing. It is a backward thing. No sensible, no sentient Western country would allow such a thing. What does he think he's doing?
Well, once again, he's representing people who have very different values to our own. And, you know, as you say, the primary reason that this isn't allowed, it may even be the only reason, is because there's overwhelming evidence of the problems that it causes. It's a kind of issue of genetics here. And if you've got genetics are too close, I'm not going to try and get too medical about this because it's obviously not my area of expertise, but any doctor can explain to you why this is a bad idea and why it leads to higher than average levels of deformities and impairments. And so there's no way on this planet we should be allowing it. I don't think it should be allowed anywhere, but certainly not in Great Britain. It's not part of who we are. It's not what we want, and it's not what anyone should be campaigning for in our parliament. It's not in the interests of the babies that are born as a result of those marriages.
Well, the MP for Central Africa, Dewsbury and Batley, Iqbal Mohammed, thinks otherwise, and here he is outlining his case.
We should try to step into the shoes of those who perhaps are not from the same culture as ours, to better understand why the practice continues to be so widespread. An estimated 35 to 50% of all sub-Saharan African populations either prefer or accept cousin marriages, and it is extremely common in the Middle East and in South Asia. I would therefore urge the House to vote against this motion and to find a more positive approach to addressing the issues that are caused by first cousin marriages.
Oh, well, if it's popular in sub-Saharan Africa, why didn't he say? Well, in that case, we should bring it in right away. What on earth does that guy think he's saying? What is he doing? That is outrageous, isn't it? That is a massive waste, a disgraceful waste, I would say, of House of Commons time.
It really is. And what exactly are the more positive ways of dealing with it that he's recommending? Is it that, you know, the NHS tries to pick up the pieces when babies are born with deformities that they should never have had to endure and face a lifelong of those problems as a result of this, you know, within family marriages and unions? I don't know what other positive response he's looking for, but in case he's forgotten, this isn't sub-Saharan Africa. This is the proud United Kingdom. And I have no idea what he was doing, standing up in the House of Commons calling for that. And I hope that he was completely rightly, you know, drowned out by opposition, although it looked like not many people were listening, fortunately, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's what he's talking about. He's saying, you know, why can't Britain, you know, a first world, you know, high-tech, modern democracy, take a leaf out of the book of some of these third world, I should say, you're not allowed to say that anymore, are you? But I'm going to say it anyway. Take a leaf out of some of these third world backward countries and be like them. I mean, it's just unbelievable, isn't it?
At the moment, we're desperately trying to not look like a third world country, although...
Give it a while, we'll be there.
I think this government is trying very hard. We're heading in that direction anyway, and we don't need any MPs encouraging us further down that route. The UK already looks third world. You only have to look at the streets of Birmingham, as you say, with the rubbish everywhere, to know that we're rapidly descending into the grubbier parts of Pakistan and Bangladesh. What we don't need is more babies with problems that they didn't need to have to endure as a result of importing cultural practices or religious practices that have nothing to do with our country and no place in our country.
All the places that he's talking to in the fullness of time, in the fullness of time, will actually grow out of this. They will realise that we're right and they're wrong, but they're not there yet. But Mr. Iqbal, Mr. Mohammed, hasn't quite got the memo yet. But there you are, Isabel. Fantastic couple of days. Thank you as always, and we'll talk again next week. Have a lovely weekend. Isabel Oakeshott there, Talk's international editor. When we come back, we'll be talking about that story I alluded to earlier. Folkestone, town on the south coast, on the front line of the migrant crisis. In 4 years, its migrant problem alone has cost that little town £30 million in 4 years. Unbelievable. Stay tuned for that.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah, if you're just listening to the news there, my friend Kinsey Schofield talking about old Meghan, her products, her jam, although she's not allowed to call it jam, it has to be called fruit spread because there's not enough sugar in it, apparently. But anyway, all of the honey tea and all that crap, that's all, she's finally got it on sale today. And as Kinsey said, everything's been snapped up within seconds. And I suspect that's because there wasn't much of it around. It is to create the illusion that everybody wants this stuff. I don't know if it'll work. But anyway, we'll be talking about Meghan and we'll be talking about Harry. And Harry's massive problems right now, in about half an hour, to Lady Colin Campbell, a reality TV legend, royal commentator, someone who knows a thing or two about what it's like to live in the cosseted world of people like Harry. So is Harry a kind of prisoner of his own privilege? I mean, he stands accused now of what he's accused all of us of, the royal family and all Brits of, for the last 5 or 6 years, that we're all unconscious, we're guilty of unconscious bias, racism. We're racist, but we don't know it, you know. Maybe some people do know it. Anyway, the point is, he now stands accused of exactly the crime that he accused the rest of us. And I'm thinking that maybe, coming from where he comes from his upbringing, perhaps unconscious bias racism really is a thing. But he's been accused, it must be killing him, this holier-than-thou, halo-polishing virtue signaler. You're all racists, but I'm not, because I've got a wife of colour and she's educated me. He now stands accused of being a racist, a misogynist, a bully, and an all-round useless individual. So we're going to talk to Lady C about what might be wrong with Harry later, and also the fact that Meghan is now in your face flogging her tat. Good look, isn't it? Not all tawdry. Unbelievable. Talk about low rent. It's really seedy. Anyway, that's Meghan, of course. No one else. We'll be talking about that in a while. We'll be taking your calls towards the end of the hour. And then, of course, at 9 o'clock, it's Trump time when he begins. He's supposed to begin his tariff speech at 9 o'clock. And what we're going to do is we'll flit from the speech, then back here. Greg Swenson, my friend from the Republican Overseas organisation here in London, will be in the studio, and we'll kind of try and analyse it as it goes along, because I don't want to just impose on you Donald Trump droning on and on and on and on. You know what it's like. So we'll take the highlights, analyse, go back. Yeah. You get the idea? That's what we'll be doing about 9 o'clock. It's an important story. It's when we find out exactly what the tariffs on Britain will be, which, as I said earlier, could end up costing 25,000 car workers their jobs, could devastate the British car industry, and prove definitively once and for all that Keir Starmer's protestations, his delusion that somehow he's got a special relationship with Donald Trump, is just that, a total delusion, a fantasy. So all of that's still to come, so stick around, folks. Now, let's talk about Folkestone. Now, we've developed a friendship with a guy called Liam T down on the south coast there. He is the brilliant individual who tipped us off. In fact, he's been telling me about stories down in Folkestone for some time now, because, of course, that is on the front line of the migrant crisis. The people of Folkestone, 7 miles along from Dover it is, they can see the boats coming over day in, day out. They can see the small boats. These are the kind of places where they pitch up. Now, in Folkestone, we've got a place called the Napier barracks. Obviously, it used to be a proper military barracks owned by the Ministry of Defence. Now, for the past 4 years, they've been billeting 328 asylum seekers there. 328. Quite a few, admittedly, but, you know, not an astronomical number. So 328 asylum seekers, 4 years in these barracks. Liam will tell you now that the people of Folkestone are used to seeing them all milling around doing nothing, sometimes slightly menacing, leaving messes and all that kind of stuff. because of course they're not allowed to work. So, but you know, very evident. But 328, not an astronomical number. 328 asylum seekers for 4 years. How much has that cost? £30 million. 30 million quid. I mean, it's unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, that's paid for by the Home Office, and in September the word is they're going to close this facility, this accommodation centre, and give it back to the Ministry of Defence. Not quite sure what's going to happen to the asylum seekers. No doubt they'll be given nice cushy public housing or something like that. But anyway, either way, he does sterling work for us, so warm welcome to the show, back to the show from our Folkestone friend, Liam T. Hi, Liam.
Good evening, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very, very well. Now, it was now a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it, when you put in a freedom of information request to Kent County Council, your local council, as it were, because you kept seeing in your hometown of Folkestone these migrants driving around, having driving lessons, driving tests, and you learned through your freedom of information. If you didn't laugh about this stuff, you'd cry. Through your freedom of information request, that Kent County Council over the last year spent an astonishing 20 million quid giving free driving lessons to migrants who didn't even know if they could stay there, only asylum seekers. So that in itself, quite a price that I don't think you people, the good people of Kent, should have to pay. Now you put in another freedom of information request because you're a bit fed up with the Napier barracks to find out how much this has all been costing. And you have got back from the Home Office that for 4 years it has cost, and I'll give you the precise amount, you know it, but for the audience, £28,128,384. So the best part of £30 million to house 328 asylum seekers, migrants, illegal migrants, basically, in the barracks. I mean, where does the money go? That seems like an awful lot of money, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's just astronomical sums, considering it's just one site that was foisted upon folks. And we didn't ask for it. They just pitched up one day. I think the money it's incredibly well. There's the numbers of staff there. You know, they've got to book people going in and book people going out. Obviously, they've got to have the catering there, the heating. I mean, this winter, for example, I could walk past there and it's freezing cold, windows wide open, heat blaring out. And if you think about it as astronomical a sum of 30 million over 4 years, say, then if you take the top rate of, say, winter fuel allowance, and let's say, for example, it's £300, 100,000 pensioners have been cruelly and unnecessarily frozen this winter in order to pay for Napier barracks. Now, that's a town or a city the size of Lincoln, for goodness sake. Yeah. And I think locals are would be outraged if they're now learning it. But they'd be glad to see the back of it when it says that it's going to be closed in September. But yeah, I was just shocked. That's £20,000 a day to keep it running. I mean, seriously.
That is extreme. As I said, you know, 328 is a fairly, you know, substantial number, but it's not astronomical. And £30 million to keep 328 people for 4 years. I mean, it seems like they, you know, what are they feeding them? You know, solid gold eggs or something. It is a bit. It's strange, isn't it? Now, you spoke to us about this before, Liam, but although there's not, the people of Folkestone are well aware of the Napier barracks people. They're among you all the time. You see them milling everywhere, yeah.
Well, yes, especially the local residents. And as I've said to you, they're very intimidated. They're told to go out in twos. They don't. They will go out in groups of 4 or 5 or whatever. There's a park directly opposite, which week after week is constantly it's littered all the time. They sit around and drink alcohol, smoke. There's nothing for them to do. So this is going to close, whilst it's kind of good news for the local community, especially for Folkestone, it's only going to shift the problem on elsewhere. And if you think, since the government has got in there, they'd said they want to reduce hotels, it's only going to go up now. The hotel numbers are going up, aren't they? So it's just going to, shift the problem on elsewhere. But with Napier Barracks as well, if I can just say this, Folkestone, just like many towns and cities up across the countries that are based on by the seaside, we have a massive problem of homelessness in the town. Many of whom, they do have drink problems or drug problems, some of whom are ex-military veterans. And the barracks themselves, if they were good enough for our brave soldiers to actually stay in, what do you think they think, seeing that Napier Barracks is being used? What they give their right arm to be housed, like that these migrants are used to.
Just watching some footage outside the barracks, it looks like local residents kind of protesting about this. So there's obviously been some quite heightened feelings about this place among the local community, and I assume that you'll be happy to see these migrants leave the town. But any idea where they might be going? What's going to happen to them?
Oh no, they'll be shipped off to another hotel that will be opened up or requisitioned by Mears or Serco or Clear Springs Ready Homes or whatever. But they'll be somebody else's problem. But well, I think there's a solution to this actually locally. If I can just give you my thoughts on this.
Yeah, please.
The incentives for these guys to get, they are predominantly male. The incentives for them to come here is the hotel. It is the GP, the dentist, the gifts, the driving lessons. So to take away that, there is a place which is just I don't know if you know, it's just 2 miles to the west of Dover. It's between Dover and Folkestone. It's called Samphire Hoe. Now, locals will actually know this. This is it's an artificial island, as it were. It was made by the drilling of the Channel Tunnel. All of the chalk.
Yeah.
They made it's 75 acres. It's like a nature reserve. There's only one way in, and that's down a tunnel off the A20. It's right next to a busy, dual carriageway. There's no neighbourhoods around, and so if that was to be requisitioned, set up as a kind of internment camp with prefabs, not a prison camp like some people might be saying, oh, it's just going to be a concentration camp or whatever. No, they're what's better, a prefab in Samphire Hoe. It's already got plumbing there. There's a restaurant, there's a visitor centre, there's everything. And knowing that you come, or you're going to Samphire Hoe, you're going there. You're not going into a hotel. You're going into one of these, and then once that's being built, whatever, you set up another one, maybe down in Dartmoor, or another one up in maybe the Shetland Islands. And so that would completely disincentivize these guys to get on a boat.
And you said the other day, didn't you, about the Napier Barracks, that although, according to The Guardian, it's got a terrible reputation and the conditions there are awful and the migrants live a terrible life, but in fact, it was a very popular place for migrants to go. They were all clamouring to get there because apparently the food was very good.
Yeah, well, the food is good, and also they know that if they stay in Napier Barracks, unlike the hotels, which they could be staying in there for months and months and months at a time, in Napier, they have to be in and out and processed within 90 days.
Oh, that's right. So then they'll probably get housing or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why they like it. Yeah. So, but you have no idea where. I mean, to be honest with you, knowing the migrant crisis in terms of the Napier Barracks and them clearing it out by September, I'll believe it when I see it. But on the basis that they just might do it, I mean, you have no idea where they'll be going. They'll just be filtered out into the system. Yeah.
They'll be foisted out, and the majority of these hotels are up north, so they're going to be shipped up there, I suppose. But also then it's not just the hotels as well, because once they are out of the hotels, it's the HMOs. They stay there, and also unscrupulous landlords, because they will happily pick out good tenants for these. It's guaranteed the council tax will be paid. It's guaranteed rent. There's no vacancy. It's guaranteed for everything. Repairs are all paid for, the works. And some landlords would just think, I don't need the stress of managing it myself, hand it over to Serco and take the money back from like the British taxpayer. It's a disgrace.
It certainly is. So have you seen any boats coming across lately? Because the weather's been quite good lately.
No, it's been well, it's coming up to summer. This is the time when we should be grateful for calm seas, but no, it's been really quite windy over the past.
Is that what it is? Because there were until about what was it the weekend, for about 10 days straight, hundreds have been coming every day. And then I was a bit surprised because I saw the weather was very good, and then all of a sudden, most of this week, 0, 0, 0. It's been quite high winds, have there?
Yeah, it's been high winds. They won't tend to make the crossing if the winds are anything at above 20 miles an hour or so. But as of, say maybe Friday, we're looking at a few that are going to come across. But definitely next week, boating season is back.
Boating season. Well, listen, Liam, get down there with your camera, film it, and get back to us. It's great to talk to you, and thank you for another great story. That's Liam T from down in Folkestone. 30 million quid for 4 years for 300 migrants. It's just, where does all the money go? Oh dear. This is write a blank cheque, don't they, basically? Let me know what you think about that. 0344499 1000. Where are we heading with this migrant crisis? The way we're going, I mean, give it about 10 years and the majority of people in this country will be migrants waiting for a decision on their asylum applications. Listen, when we come back, we're going to talk to Amy Gallagher from the New Culture Forum about something that actually sort of affects the Prince Harry story, really, about unconscious bias and white privilege. This is the system whereby guilt-ridden middle-class white people seem to find their whiteness a problem. The very nature of being white makes you evil and wrong, and you need to adjust, you need to realise that you're the beneficiary of unjustified privilege. It's a nonsense philosophy, but it's very pernicious. And we'll talk about one particularly pernicious case. So stick around for that. Stay tuned, that's next.
actually dealing with the individual people with lovely doctors and nurses, I mean, well, most of the time, you know, and you feel like once you've got in, you've got a good service, and you felt some sympathy for them that they were working in a difficult circumstance.
That's right. And then after COVID, where nothing has returned, the services appear worse. You can't actually criticise it because then you're told, oh, well, you mustn't do that. It's a bastion of being British.
Doesn't stop us.
Absolutely ridiculous.
I think that ship, again, face the day, this ship has sailed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I want to talk about unconscious racism, embedded whiteness, white privilege. This is the system by which people who read The Guardian will tell people like me, well, you say you're not a racist, but you are, because you're white, you've got privilege, and you don't realise you're a racist. It's unconscious, but it's in you, because you're white. You're white. The London Museum currently has launched a huge diversity drive in which it has urged staff to address the problem of embedded whiteness. The publicly funded museum has created a leaflet to help staff challenge embedded whiteness in the workplace. That their culture and ways of working supports, apparently because they're white, institutional forms of racism. So this is a way of saying we've got a real racism problem when we don't. In other words, it might not look as if we've got a racism problem, but unconsciously we do. Embedded whiteness is a problem. Well, let's talk to... She was on a couple of days ago, but she is the lady to talk to in this instance. She's from the New Culture Forum. Welcome to Amy Gallagher. Thanks for coming back on the show, Amy.
Thanks, Kevin.
And the reason I wanted to get you on is on your excellent Twitter feed, or X, or whatever you call it now, you've got a pinned tweet, and you're crowdfunding money to sue the Tavistock Clinic for gender dysphoric kids, which I live quite near there, and the locals always called this place Frankenstein's Castle, because it's where children go to get mutilated by adults. Ridiculous place. But you pinned on your timeline an excerpt from a policy seminar at the Tavistock Clinic, which I think absolutely sums up the nonsense we're talking about. So before we have a chat, let's have a listen. This is the Tavistock Policy Seminar, and it's entitled Whiteness, a Problem for Our Time. Here we go.
When we face our whiteness, we need to set aside our sense of uniqueness, the tendency we white people have to not see either our whiteness or our racism. White ignorance produces the ironic outcome that whites will in general be unable to understand the world they themselves have made. Facing the implications of being white is not comfortable. White fragility is not a weakness, but a way of protecting white privilege. White ignorance is the means by which we at the centre close our eyes to our privilege and the inherent privilege in whiteness, the reality of white privilege. As we face the guilt of whiteness past and present, we have to let go of the myth of our white innocence and purity.
What a load of crap. Amy, exactly what is she saying there? It is that, isn't it? That you and me and all white people may not think we're racists, but we are. That's about it, yeah?
That's pretty much it. Yeah, those are some quotes that were part of a lecture that was sent to me when I was at the Tavistock. And when I heard it, I was quite shocked. In the lecture, there was no opposing viewpoints. So all of those quotes that you just showed were presented as though they were fact. So I was being told that white people were all racist, even white children, that white privilege was a reality. So, and no evidence was given for any of this. It's just you have to just accept our word. So this is when I was trained training there. So I disagreed with this, and I said, well, we're going to be treating patients in the NHS who won't agree with these ideas, and they're not accepted by everyone, and we should be careful of using ideology in our work. And I said that, I'm against racism, but I would subscribe to the colourblind approach of not judging anyone, including white people, by the colour of their skin. And I was told that was discredited and outdated, and that I wasn't a proper anti-racist. And I was put through kind of 2 years of bullying, essentially, until I was finally hounded off the course. So I'm in the process of suing them, and that's my crowdfunder at Stand Up to Woke, GoFundMe, where I'm kind of got probably a year longer of litigation against them, because they would not accept that there could be an opposing viewpoint. And that was 2 or 3 years ago now that happened to me. But as you said with this recent story, it's still happening. It's still, our institutions are still pushing this stuff. And it's the idea that all white people are unconsciously racist. And it's not something that you can prove or disprove.
You're right. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
So when you and I, I'm not prone to say I'm not a racist, I'm anti-racism. You're not supposed to be a racist, obviously. People who go around saying I'm not a racist, I mean, it's a bit like saying I'm not a baby killer. You're not supposed to be a racist. You're not supposed to kill babies. It's an obvious thing. But this is the new resort of the kind of Guardian reading elite. You want to say, you don't think you're a racist. It's actually, ironically, we're going to be doing the Prince Harry story in just a little while. It's what Harry loves to accuse the royal family, and in fact most of us in Britain, of being guilty of, unconscious bias. So he's a great proponent of the unconscious bias syndrome. And if such a thing exists, which I don't believe it does, he's the worst exponent of it. Because he's now currently being called a racist, a bully, a misogynist, etc. So he's getting a taste of his own medicine. But what I say is this is a kind of, a middle-class liberal sickness, isn't it? It's as if they're going, what do you mean we can't complain about racism? Well, why can't we call everyone a racist? Well, they're not a racist, that's why. Oh, right, let's come up with a way that we can call people racists. How about they're unconsciously racist? They don't realise they're racist. It is desperately trying to find a way for them to say we live in a racist hellhole. What they might like to know, I've been around the world, lived in different countries, so this is one of the least racist countries on the face of the planet, on Earth. But these people won't have that, will they?
No, that's right. It's a kind of a pseudo-intellectualism, I would say. It's kind of second-rate academics who want to feel like they're superior, and they push these ideas because they think they sound clever. And what I actually found is when you challenge them on that, and you say, well, so for example, I was being told that I needed to interrogate my whiteness. When I said to
What's that mean?
Yeah, I said to them, what do you mean? What do you actually want me to do? What would that look like? They sort of said, well, you just need to sort of think about it. And I was like, but what? How would I know that I've done it? Or how would you know that I've done it? And they don't have an answer. And they keep pushing this idea of whiteness. And it's this nebulous concept that sometimes it means white people, sometimes it means capitalism, sometimes it means men. It can mean anything. It can just mean whatever they want it to mean. And you need to just go along with it. And it becomes very tyrannical very quickly, because they can call you out for your whiteness at any point, because nobody really knows what it means anyway. So it's just a way of controlling people, essentially.
Yeah. And when you did challenge it, when you asked questions like, well, how do I know when I've interrogated my whiteness? How do I know? How do I know? Presumably that attitude made them think you're a racist.
Yeah, that's another thing they say, that if you become defensive, so the fact that you're asking questions is a form of defensiveness, that you're struggling to interrogate your whiteness, and that you need more time to do it. It's all of these things that it's this constant idea that they know better than you, and you're just not getting it. Like you're not as smart as they are, and you need to kind of understand it more, and then you'll know, and then you'll be able to properly interrogate it. It's almost psychologically abusive in a way. It's just this kind of struggle session where there's nothing you can do to please them, and that's what Prince Harry's experiencing now. That you cannot be woke enough, you cannot challenge your whiteness enough. Someone will always get you in the end, because you didn't do the right thing.
Absolutely, and ironically, in the end, this is racism. The problem of whiteness, the whiteness problem. I mean, if you're going to have a problem of whiteness, then by extension there must be a problem of blackness. You see what I mean? The differentiation of the races, and the attributing of different attributes, different characteristics to different race. That's racism. So these people, these unconscious bias proponents, the white privilege proponents, they're actually kind of racist.
Yeah, they are racist. As you said, if they were talking about a problem of Asianness or Jewishness, people would quite rightly say that's overt racism. But somehow they managed to get away with this term whiteness for several years now. And the claim is that we all need to challenge institutional racism. But I would say this constant fixation on white people and whiteness is a form of institutionalized racism. You're taking institutions that didn't have a problem with racism and you're injecting racism into them. So they're doing the exact opposite of what they're claiming to be. They're describing themselves when they describe you. It's just crazy. We had places like the NHS or museums that you wouldn't encounter racism, certainly not in a museum. Where would you encounter it? But now they're pushing all of this racial stuff onto people all the time, and it is, as you say, it's racist. It's telling people that you can know about a person or what's going on in their mind based on the colour of their skin, which is racist, and there's no evidence for that anyway.
It's a mad world, Amy. Listen, thanks for talking to us, and good luck with your lawsuit. Keep us posted. That's Amy Gallagher from the New Culture Forum, as used to be a nurse at the Tavistock Clinic for gender dysphoric kids, where kids as young as 4 were told they were trapped in the wrong body. Absolute nonsense, where grown adults basically advised prepubescent kids to start taking drugs to change themselves because they might be in the wrong. Unbelievable. NHS that was. Oh well. Let's move on. Next up, after these messages, after this break, we'll be talking to the great Lady C, Lady Colin Campbell, about Prince Harry, Meghan, but I really want to talk to her about Prince Harry and his condition, if you know what I mean, his life of privilege. Has that affected him now that he's being accused of unconscious bias and racism and bullying and misogyny? You name it, he's been charged with it. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. He deserves it because he's been charging us with all of that for years. So he can enjoy a taste of his own medicine. But we'll talk to Lady C after this break. Back in a mo.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Actually, if you want to give me a call, please do. 0344 499 1000. You know what we're talking about. We need to talk about Trump. We're talking about this NHS exclusive. Loads of pregnant mums from foreign countries going abroad to have their babies and then charging the NHS before they come back here. Unbelievable. Also, the £30 million price of 300 migrants in Folkestone over 4 years. Where did that come from? That's just one little town on the south coast. 30 million quid in 4 years. Let me know what you think about that. 03444 99 1000. Now, time now to talk about Prince Harry and indeed Meghan Markle. She's launched her sales drive today. She's selling her jam and all that tat. $10 for a jar of jam. You can't even call it jam. You have to call it fruit preserve or fruit spread because it hasn't got enough sugar in it. Sounds horrible. $10. If you could buy that, falling his money and all that. But let's talk about Harry. Let's talk about Meghan with someone who knows about this sort of thing. Royal commentator, legendary reality TV star, the very famous Lady Colin Campbell. Thank you for joining us, Lady C.
Hello, lovely to see you.
Always a pleasure. Now, I thought, what I want to ask you, I want to talk about Meghan in just a little while. But Prince Harry finds himself at the centre of a storm that must be acutely painful to him because, as you know, for the past 5 years or so, since Megxit, since they escaped this country, Harry and Meghan have basically been accusing you, me, everyone in Britain and the royal family of unconscious bias, of racism, perhaps not conscious racism, but we're all racists. Now he's had the tables turned on him because Sophie Chandorka, a lady of colour, who is the chairman of his former charity Centre Bali, says that Prince Harry is a racist, he's a bully, he's a misogynist, a misogynoirist, a new word to me, which is hatred of black women. The reason I wanted to talk to you is you know about life in the higher echelons of society. Do you think that, in a way, these charges against Harry are probably justified because he's a prisoner of his own privilege? He's grown up in a very privileged white upper-class environment and probably unknowingly can be racist to people like Sophie Chandorka. She says she felt that she was treated racistly and also with misogynism and that she was bullied and that he talked down to her. Do you think it's something to do with his upbringing?
Well, Kevin, may I say, as a Jamaican, which to me is far more important than anything else in terms of the colour question, because being Jamaican, our national motto is out of many one people, and Jamaica is a very mixed society, yeah, white, brown, black, everything, all. And I have to say that I don't think that colour actually has anything to do with it. I don't think colour ever had anything to do with Harry and Meghan's problems. I think they played the colour card very cynically, or she played it to deflect everybody from her appalling conduct before she even met Harry and her appalling conduct since she's been with Harry. And Harry went along with it. And I think Sophie Chandorka has simply played the same card, and I think she's played it with, I would have said, no more merit than they have played it with in terms of race, but with a lot more merit in terms of classism and in terms of lack of respect. The colour card is a very convenient card to play when it's somebody black playing it against somebody white. But when it's a black person playing it against a brown person and a white person who have been playing it against the whole world, it becomes very, very instructive. And I have had over the years complaints from, because I'm Jamaican, from West Indian and African diplomats about the completely destructive way Harry and Meghan were using the race card to the detriment of racial harmony and racial integration within the Commonwealth. So this has been a huge problem for a long time. And I actually think it's almost entertaining, and it's certainly the great justice that Harry and Meghan have had done to them what they have done to everybody else. And remember, Harry and Meghan have never negated the accusations that she caused and he caused. I made scabies to make in that book via the Dutch publisher about the King and Catherine being racist. And so I think it's wonderful. I'm delighted she's done it. I think it's about time somebody did it. And I also have to tell you, everybody in the black community has known sooner or later she was going to come a cropper, because she is so arrogant and he is so entitled that sooner or later they were going to come a cropper with someone of color. It was just a matter of waiting for time, and it's happened. And I think it's wonderful.
It's such a good point, Lady C, that they have had the tables turned on them in sensational fashion, and it was very rich and ironic today, actually, to see. So Harry has deployed some of his posh pals to speak for him, and one of them today said, "Oh, this Sophie Shandorka, she's playing the race card." I mean, you know, representing Harry and Meghan, who for years have been living off the race card. You're right, the irony of it is delicious, and you can't help feeling, you know, you shouldn't really celebrate this kind of argument, but you can't help feeling that Harry and Meghan, the biggest victim players, the biggest race card players known to man, fully deserve their fate here, don't they? They fully deserve what Sophie's doing. And she is a formidable woman. He's picked the wrong person to be an enemy of, I would suggest.
Yes, well, what I find interesting, aside from the fact that Alex Rayner is a total idiot, you know, the chap who...
he's the, I should explain to the audience, he's the posh pal that Harry has deployed to speak for him in this ongoing conflict, in this dispute. But as I say, you know, she's played the race card. It's like, come on, you can't say that after what you've been saying. They played the race card against all of us in Britain and the royal family and Kate and the King. I mean, to actually say that the King and Kate Middleton were racist, what a disgrace. Anyway, so I think they deserve this.
Oh, without a doubt they deserve it. And I really think nobody should feel guilty about exulting in their distress. If ever two people...
I was just feeling it. I was feeling exactly that, actually, Lady C, but thank you for forgiving me. But where do you think... well, let's talk about Meghan, shall we? Meghan is... her tat has gone on sale today. So she's selling jam, but it's not allowed to be called jam. It's called fruit preserve, because apparently it hasn't got enough... No, fruit spread, because it hasn't got enough sugar in it, so it can't technically be called jam. So she's selling jam, honey tea, all this kind of stuff. So it went on sale today, and within about 10 minutes she was on Instagram saying, you know, shelves are empty, but my heart is full, because they'd sold out. I suspect that she deliberately didn't put too much on sale to make it look as if these products were really in demand.
Well, are we sure that Meghan didn't go and buy out everything or send her cohorts to buy out everything, because she's so devious and manipulative, and everything appears as if it's a great success. But who's spending $10 and $15 for a bottle of not even jam? And, you know, honey at $1,000 just because it's mine. You know, I mean, Harry may have feasted off her honey pot, but the fact of the matter is I don't see anybody else going to be buying her honey. And also I understand from my Hollywood connections that Netflix has been tremendously concerned, because they actually do not think there's ever going to be a market for this. And it's actually reasonable that they would think there's not going to be a market, because the only people who would be able to afford jam and honey and all of that nonsense and sachets of fattening things. First of all, people are not so interested in fattening things anymore. But secondly, her followers, the people who admire her, are usually very poor, very disadvantaged, and very ignorant. Because if they weren't ignorant, they wouldn't admire her. Are they going to be able to... No, but seriously.
No, I'm not arguing.
You know, they're not going to be able to afford it. So the whole thing is going to be yet another. It's a recipe for disaster. And I think never did anybody deserve failure quite as much as Meghan, except possibly Harry.
Well, what about Harry, though? Don't you feel sort of slightly sorry for him? I think he's been led down a humiliating path by his wife. And look at her now. She's just cashing in. What they say is she's cashing in and selling out in the most tawdry manner. You know, it's really down market, really low rent what she's doing. Just trying to make become a billionaire on the back of her semi-royal status. Meanwhile, he's lost his charity, Sentibale. He doesn't really seem to have very much to do at all now, except the Invictus Games, which is a very good event, don't get me wrong. So he hasn't got much left in his life. Apparently he's just sort of milling around Montecito, watching his wife, you know, with this swirling mass of activity trying to make money. And he hasn't got much left in his life. She's led him to a not very nice place in life, don't you think?
She's led him to perdition, but he's gone voluntarily. Let's not forget that. He's an adult, and he may be very stupid, but he is an adult, and even stupid people can be decent. He just doesn't happen to be one of them. And the fact of the matter is that she has distanced you. Have you noticed? She's never around when it's anything negative.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Lady Sid. That's exactly what I was saying to a friend today. Where is she? This is Harry's darkest hour. He's in deep trouble over this. He's devastated about the loss of this charity. I think, as you suggest, it's mainly his own fault. He shouldn't have been so imperious and so dismissive of Sophie Chandorka and apparently other staff as well. And she was very upset by the colonial nature of his fundraising, that money was being raised for Sentibale at these millionaires' polo matches, champagne flowing everywhere in Florida. And Sophie feared, she thought this looked like kind of white colonialism, white saviorism, and she didn't like it. She said, let's start raising money in Africa. And that's why they fell out. He doesn't like that. He didn't like that idea. So that's why he now has no charity to work with. He's got the Invictus Games, but nothing else left in his life. Don't you feel a bit sorry for him?
I don't mean to be sort of didactic, but I think you slightly got the order of things wrong. They fell out because of the way Meghan disrespected Sophie. That was the initial falling out.
At the polo match, yeah.
She tried to get Harry to get Sophie to retrieve her reputation when And Sophie quite rightly said, sorry, it's nothing to do with me. The press saw what went on. They've reported it. If I say anything, it's only going to make it worse. And then he hopped in with, oh, I don't like the way you're fundraising. I don't like this. I don't like that. I have to say, I think she has a point, because I've now been raising money for charity for 53 years. Mm-hmm. You know, I think I know a little bit about raising money for charity, and I've done it even in Jamaica as well. Mm-hmm. And the fact of the matter is, we are living in a world where more grassroots charity is important. But the fact of the matter is, you need both the glamour aspect and the roots aspect of it. And I think, in fact, the fundraising issue is rather like the race issue. It's a diversion from the reality of what was going on, which was that he objected to the fact that she was not going to be allowing his wife to maraud all over the charity, and that's really the nub of the matter.
That's really well put, because Sophie Chandorka has said that she. So when Harry said, "Listen, you've got to put out a statement defending my wife," and she refused. She refused on this basis. She said, "Sentebale is not an extension of brand Sussex." He kind of thought it was, and Meghan definitely thought it was. And now his friends as well, a last point really, ladies, see, his friends, you know, this, what's his name, the guy who's, they're saying that Sophie, a woman of colour, is jealous of Meghan, a woman of colour. Which again is a bit uncomfortable. That I think is a bit racist, that statement. But all in all, there's this kind of aroma of snobbery, of white saviorism about the whole operation.
I think, Kevin, it's all about snobbery. I think whether they've been white, brown or black, it has nothing to do. It's all about snobbery, I think. I think the colour issue is a diversion, and it plays well, but I think it deflects from the reality, which is that Sophie Chandorka expected to be treated with respect. She wasn't. She made a very valid point to Harry, which was that, sorry, if I intervene in this matter with the press, because, they saw what had gone on. Meghan wanted Harry to get Sophie to do what they are typically doing always, which is, sorry, you didn't see what you saw, or if you saw it, you misinterpreted. We're really wonderful. You know what? So people are supposed to disbelieve their observations, and she made the absolutely accurate point to him, which was, sorry, if I say anything, it's going to make it worse, which of course it would have made worse.
It would have, but now we have it's even worse than ever. It's a real mess, and Harry's at a low point, and I think his royal brand is in big trouble. Lady C, I could talk to you all night, but I'm afraid we've got the news coming up, so thank you so much for your time. Great to talk to you as always. The inimitable Lady Colin Campbell there, royal commentator. Listen, we're going to go to break now, come back and take a quick call, and then we'll be talking about, or going live to Washington to listen to Donald Trump, so stick around.
when you're actually dealing with the individual people, always lovely doctors and nurses, I mean, well, most of the time, you know, and you feel like once you've got in, you've got a good service, and you felt some sympathy for them that they were working in a difficult circumstance.
That's right. And then after COVID, where nothing has returned, the services appear worse. You can't actually criticise it because then you're told, oh, well, you mustn't do that. It's a bastion of being British.
Doesn't stop us.
Absolutely ridiculous.
I think that ship, again, face the day, this ship has sailed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Before we start covering Donald Trump's tariff speech, let's take a quick call. She wants to talk about Meghan and Harry. This is Philippa in Poole in Dorset. Hi, Philippa.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very, very well. What would you like to say about the gruesome twosome?
The Duke and Duchess of Sussex are hypocrites.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they are, aren't they? They're royal hypocrites. Yeah.
They go away to America because they want a private life. They don't want to be in the public eye. Yeah, every single thing that they do brings them right back into it.
Yeah, with which they love. She loves it. That's why she's cashing in.
Know, they accuse our royal family of being racist. They accuse them of making derogatory comments about the colour of their children's skin. They don't support the king during his illness and his cancer treatment, or the Duchess of Cambridge. That's what they should be doing. They shouldn't be focusing on themselves all the time because they say they want a private life, but yet at the same time they just want to focus on them all the time. And that's not the way it should be. I feel very sorry for this young lady that's been involved in their charity because they've treated her appallingly. They are not learning their lessons at all. You know, Harry should be back over here supporting his dad. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they should be all pulling together to help him through his treatment and, you know, be supportive of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. But they're not. They're just focusing on themselves. And
Meghan is just cashing in, as they say, selling out and cashing in. And, you know, suddenly she thinks she's going to be a billionaire. This is what this has all been about. Marrying Harry, causing a constant stir, getting in the headlines, so she can reach a position where she can launch her big money-making operation. All very tawdry, all very low rent. And now Harry is a ship adrift. God knows what he's going to do with the rest of his life. He's lost his charity. His wife's too busy to even talk to him. Where is she defending him? She should be out there, but she's not. You're quite right, Philippa. I've got to go, though. Thank you very much for an excellent call, as always. That's Philippa in Poole in Dorset. Next up, Greg Swenson will join me as we watch Donald Trump's speech over there in Washington. We will analyse it as it progresses. Stick around for that.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. It is Liberation Day, of course, when Donald Trump delivers his speech about the tariffs he's going to impose on countries all over the world. Greg Swenson from the Republican Overseas Organisation here in London is in the studio to help me analyse. We're going to go over there, come back, talk about what he's saying. We won't impose the whole thing on you. They're all gearing up at the White House. I'm looking at it now. But Donald Trump today, before he actually starts his speech, put out this video. Have a look.
President Trump pushing ahead with his America First agenda.
Breaking news, Apple announced it's going to work with Foxconn to build a server factory in Texas by 2026.
The company says it is now planning to invest $500 billion in the U.S. economy.
The CEO of SoftBank pledging to invest $100 billion in the U.S. over the next 4 years.
This is President Trump delivering on the promise he made to the American people on the campaign trail.
The idea is come to America, build greatness in America, build for American customers.
Project Stargate. It's a joint venture between SoftBank, Oracle, and OpenAI, and they're going to create a data center that will eventually be expanded to other states.
Shows people are listening to Mr. Trump's pitch to bring new industry to America. This is the latest pledge.
Well, what can possibly go wrong, Greg? Looks great.
Yeah, it's going to be volatile, I think, and I'm not sure what to expect. Predicting is challenging, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, there's an evening up here. Trump is right. I mean, over the years, so many countries, it hasn't been tit for tat.
Right.
America has got the worst end of the deal, particularly here in Britain. But although we're not as bad as the European Union.
That's true.
So he says if I even up the tariffs, it's going to be fair. And also, I think he hopes to encourage, say, British car manufacturers. He's basically saying, well, why don't you come to America and manufacture them in the United States, and then we won't charge you the tariffs.
That's right. And not only would that be good for the car manufacturers because they don't have to worry about tariffs, but the conditions for operating a business are so much better in the United States than they are in the United Kingdom, unfortunately for us here. But energy prices, the cost for energy for a British business is 5 times, not 5%, not 50%, 5 times what it costs an American business. So if you're a manufacturer, whether it's a startup or an established business, why would you want to open a business here in this country? As much as I love this place, I would be going to the United States. It's better.
Well, let's have a look at Catherine Leavitt, the redoubtable spokeslady for the White House, for the president. Here she is explaining Trump's tariff project. Take it away, Caroline.
Looking ahead to tomorrow, April 2nd, 2025, will go down as one of the most important days in modern American history. Our country has been one of the most open economies in the world, and we have the consumer base hands down, the best consumer base. But too many foreign countries have their markets closed to our exports. This is fundamentally unfair. The lack of reciprocity contributes to our large and persistent annual trade deficit that's gutted our industries and hollowed out key workforces. But those days of America, beginning tomorrow, being ripped off are over. American workers and businesses will be put first under President Trump, just as he promised on the campaign trail. The president's historic action tomorrow will improve American competitiveness in every area of industry, reduce our massive trade deficits, and ultimately protect our economic and national security. President Trump's economic vision is rooted in common sense.
I mean, I could listen to her all day. I could watch her all day. Definitely the best-looking spokesman we've ever had in the White House. Unbelievable. She's quite impressive, though, I must say. Let me ask you this, Greg.
Yeah.
We're going to analyse it. We're waiting. We believe it will start soon. In politics, they never start on time.
Of course not.
Of course
We've
not.
had this before.
Yeah, indeed. We here in Britain, absurdly, even at the beginning, even on Monday, that idiot Starmer was talking about, we're working to get a special trade deal in place by Thursday. We'll get, that's a big surprise, they didn't quite manage that. He goes round acting as if not only does Britain have a special relationship with America, which it does to an extent, but that he has a special relationship with Donald Trump. My view is that the reason Donald Trump will hit us with the same tariffs he hits the rest of Europe with, the EU with, is he thinks of Keir Starmer exactly the same as he thinks of all those weak, woke enemies of free speech who are the EU leaders. He thinks Starmer is weak, woke and an enemy of free speech. And by the way, he's exactly right. I'm right, aren't I?
Yeah, it's a really good point, Kevin. And I think if you look at what Keir Starmer's trying to do, good for him, A, for effort. You know, I think for the good of the United Kingdom, I hope it works. We're cutting in.
Let's come back to that, Greg, because he's just started. Donald Trump, here he is, the tariff speech.
Americans, this is Liberation Day, waiting for a long time. April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again. We're going to make it wealthy, good and wealthy. For decades, our country has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by nations near and far, both friend and foe alike. American steelworkers, auto workers, farmers, and skilled craftsmen, we have a lot of them here with us today. They really suffered gravely. They watched in anguish as foreign leaders have stolen our jobs, foreign cheaters have ransacked our factories, and foreign scavengers have torn apart our once beautiful American dream. We had an American dream that you don't hear so much about. You did 4 years ago, and you are now, but you don't too often, and for many years and decades even, you didn't hear too much about. Our country and its taxpayers have been ripped off for more than 50 years, but it is not going to happen anymore. It's not going to happen. In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world. Reciprocal, that means they do it to us and we do it to them. Very simple, can't get any simpler than that. This is one of the most important days, in my opinion, in American history. It's our declaration of economic independence. For years, hardworking American citizens were forced to sit on the sidelines as other nations got rich and powerful, much of it at our expense. But now it's our turn to prosper, and in so doing, use trillions and trillions of dollars to reduce our taxes and pay down our national debt, and it'll all happen very quickly. With today's action, we are finally going to be able to make America great again, greater than ever before. Jobs and factories will come roaring back into our country, and you see it happening already. We will supercharge our domestic industrial base. We will pry open foreign markets and break down foreign trade barriers. And ultimately, more production at home will mean stronger competition and lower prices for consumers. This will be indeed the golden age of America. It's coming back, and we're going to come back very strongly. We're pleased to be joined on this momentous occasion by Vice President J.D. Vance. J.D., thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Where are you, J.D.? No, that wasn't too hard to find. I was looking, you know, he likes to take a low-key attitude, so usually we sit right in front. He's gaining a lot of confidence, Mike, isn't he? And nearly my entire cabinet is here, as well as Speaker Mike Johnson, who's done an amazing job. And with the great success we had last night in Florida, we have a majority of 7. And 7's like a lot when we had it at 1, right? You've done a fantastic job. And many of the members of the House and Senate are with us. Senators, congressmen, thank you all for being with us. We appreciate it. For decades, the United States slashed our trade barriers on other countries, while those nations placed massive tariffs on our products and created outrageous non-monetary barriers to decimate our industries. And in many cases, the non-monetary barriers were worse than the monetary ones. They manipulated their currencies, subsidized their exports, stole our intellectual property, imposed exorbitant VAT taxes to disadvantage our products, adopted unfair rules and technical standards, and created filthy pollution havens. They were absolutely filthy, but they always came to us and they said, we're violating, we should pay for it. It's all detailed in a very big report by the U.S. Trade Representative on foreign trade barriers, and I'll just hold it up for you. It's available, and you don't have to pay too much. As I understand it, you'll pay nothing. It's a lot of work for something, actually, because it's a special book. It's very, frankly, it's very upsetting when you read it, when you see what people have been doing to us for 30 years. This all happened with no response from the United States of America, none whatsoever. But those days are over. Let me offer just a few examples of the vicious attacks our workers have faced for so many years. The United States charges other countries only a 2.4 tariff on motorcycles. Meanwhile, Thailand and others are charging much higher prices, like 60%. India charges 70%. Vietnam charges 75%, and others are even higher than that. Likewise, until today, the United States has for decades charged a 2.5 tariff. Think of that, 2.5% on foreign-made automobiles. The European Union charges us more than 10% tariffs, and they have 20% VATs, much, much higher. India charges 70%, and perhaps worst of all are the non-monetary restrictions imposed by South Korea, Japan, and very many other nations. As a result of these colossal trade barriers, 81% of the cars in South Korea are made in South Korea. 94% of the cars in Japan are made in Japan. Toyota sells 1 million foreign-made automobiles into the United States, and General Motors sells almost none. Ford sells very little. None of our companies are allowed to go into other countries. And I say that, friend and foe. And in many cases, the friend is worse than the foe in terms of trade. But such horrendous imbalances have devastated our industrial base and put our national security at risk. I don't blame these other countries at all for this calamity. I blame former presidents and past leaders who weren't doing their job. They let it happen, and they let it happen to an extent that nobody can even believe. That's why, effective at midnight, we will impose a 25% tariff on all foreign-made automobiles. Thank you. Brian, I'd like to have you come up here for a second, okay? I just see him sitting. He's been a fan of ours, and he understands this business a lot better than the economists, a lot better than anybody. Brian, say a few words, please, would you?
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. It's a great honor to have you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. President. I grew up just north of Detroit, Michigan, in Macomb County, known as the home of the Reagan Democrats. My first vote for president was for Ronald Reagan. I thought that was going to be the best president I ever saw in my lifetime until Donald J. Trump came along. I have watched my entire life, I have watched plant after plant after plant in Detroit and in the metro Detroit area close. There are now plants sitting idle. There are now plants that are underutilized.
Greg, while this guy in a baseball cap makes a speech, the like of which I'm not quite sure what it's all about, but anyway, what he's made is a good statement of intent. We kind of knew all of that.
Yeah.
We're now waiting for the actual figures.
Right.
But I was saying to you, let's talk about Britain, of course. I've got here what we're looking at potentially a 25% tariff on foreign automobiles effective from midnight. So if that is imposed on Britain, they say that could have a really devastating effect on our car industry. 25,000 people might lose their jobs, which is obviously not a good thing. But I think that part of our predicament here has been our Prime Minister's delusional approach to his relationship with Donald Trump. Donald Trump was never going to treat us any differently from the rest of Europe, was he?
Yeah, well, I think there's some merit to ultimately treating the UK differently than the rest of Europe, and there's a few reasons for that. One is President Trump likes the UK. He has a decent relationship so far with Starmer. The other issue is the trade deficit, right? There is not a substantial trade deficit between the U.S. and the U.K. There's a huge trade deficit with the EU, $180 billion. So, you know, the U.K. is in a much better position because the U.S. taxpayer isn't funding the welfare state of the United Kingdom. They're funding the welfare states of Western Europe or the EU. And so that's a difference. Now, I'm not suggesting that Britain isn't a welfare state, because it is, but we're not funding it. And that's important to keep in mind, because President Trump is transactional. He's going to look at what's best for the U.S., but he does like the U.K., and I think he has good intentions there.
He likes it more than the EU.
Yeah.
But as J.D. Vance made clear in that incredible speech in Munich a couple of months back, you know, where he lashed into all the EU leaders, all the European leaders, calling them woke enemies of freedom of speech, and basically saying, look, if you don't climb on board with us culturally, you know, our love of free speech, etc. If you don't climb on board with us in terms of our cultural values, then our relationship is going to be strained. Now, in that speech, 4 minutes of it was about Britain and about what we've been doing. So I agree with you. We might get a better deal than the EU, but it's not going to be. He's still going to hit us, isn't he?
Right, and because I think American taxpayers and this administration are tired of supporting the welfare states, as I mentioned, but they're also tired of supporting and really paying for countries that don't align with our values.
Exactly.
And you know, look, we're not perfect in the United States. We had 4 years of Biden where we were as or probably more woke than the United Kingdom and our friends in Europe. President Biden was actively censoring free speech, like the government was actively working with social media companies to censor.
Like the British government.
Yes, exactly. And so, you know, I'm not like, you know, he who has not sinned throw the first stone. But
well, you gave us wokery.
Yes, we transferred it here.
Now you got rid of it.
We exported it, and
now we're stuck with it.
Yeah, and that's what elections are for, and I hope that works here too.
Yeah. Will this impact on the economic welfare of Americans? I mean, will it hit them hard? I mean, because Trump has said it may be tough for a while.
Greatly exaggerated, sensationalized is an understatement. Yes, there will be one-time price adjustments, right? If you slap tariffs on Range Rovers, you know, sales will go down, prices will go up, prices of other autos might go up too. There will be a price adjustment. It's not long-term inflationary. This is not.
So you don't believe that Americans will be that badly?
I do not at all.
I think it's getting to a few details.
Apples and oranges.
So we'll go back to Donald Trump over there in the White House.
But they're not first in line, and the American people are paying a very big price. From 1789 to 1913, we were a tariff-backed nation, and the United States was proportionately the wealthiest it has ever been. So wealthy, in fact, that in the 1880s, they established a commission to decide what they were going to do with the vast sums of money they were collecting. We were collecting so much money so fast, we didn't know what to do with it. Isn't that a nice problem to have? What do you think, Marco? Good problem? Marco would love that problem. But we don't have that problem anymore, but we're not going to have it very much longer, I will tell you. But they collected so much money they actually formed a commission to determine what they were going to do with the money, who they were going to give it to, and how much. Then in 1913, for reasons unknown to mankind, they established the income tax so that citizens, rather than foreign countries, would start paying the money necessary to run our government. Then in 1929, it all came to a very abrupt end with the Great Depression, and it would have never happened if they had stayed with the tariff policy. It would have been a much different story. They tried to bring back tariffs to save our country, but it was gone. It was gone. It was too late. Nothing could have been done. It took years and years to get out of that depression, far longer than even FDR had that office right over there for a long period of time. The ramp system, that's rather intricate, was built because of him, and every time you walk up, you think of him, and he did a great job in many ways, but it lasted long beyond his terms, as you know. But it's not too late any longer, and we're going to start being smart, and we're going to start being very wealthy again. We're going to be wealthy as a country because they've taken so much of our wealth away from us. We're not going to let that happen. We truly can be very wealthy. We can be so much wealthier than any country. It's not even believable, but we're getting smart. Nearly a century later, in the face of unrelenting economic warfare, the United States can no longer continue with a policy of unilateral economic surrender. We cannot pay the deficits of Canada, Mexico, and so many other countries. We used to do it. We can't do it anymore. We take care of countries all over the world. We pay for their military. We pay for everything they have to pay, and then when you want to cut back a little bit, they get upset that you're not taking care of them any longer. But we have to take care of our people, and we're going to take care of our people first, and I'm sorry to say that. And today we're standing up for the American worker, and we are finally putting America first. In Sleepy Joe Biden's last year in office, the United States hemorrhaged 100,000 manufacturing jobs, and the number was going through the roof at levels never seen before. And our trade deficit reached a record $1.2 trillion, which is unheard of. Since the beginning of NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made. It was a horror show. I was able to terminate it. They all said you'd never be able to get it out. We had to get approval from Congress to get it terminated. We had to live with that deal. It was the worst deal, worst trade deal ever made by far. But since the very beginning of NAFTA, our country lost 90,000 factories. Think of what that is, 90,000. Think about putting a map up and putting tax on it. You wouldn't have enough room. 90,000. I said, is that possible? We had it checked 4 different times, and it was actually somewhat higher than that. And 5 million manufacturing jobs were lost while racking up trade deficits of $19 trillion. That was the worst trade deal ever made. As a result of these gigantic losses, foreign nations now own $26 trillion more of American assets than think of this, than the Americans own of their own foreign assets or other foreign assets. The United States can no longer produce enough antibiotics to treat our sick. We have a tremendous problem. We have to go to foreign countries to treat our sick. If anything ever happened from a war standpoint, we wouldn't be able to do it. We import...
Greg, he's enjoying the moment, typically. When the TV camera's on, Donald will talk. And my God, he's talking.
Yeah.
I mean, he is chronicling the history of America's generosity to the world.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah, and it did get to the point where, you know, a lot of us in Europe, I always try to stress to my American friends, including you, that we were embarrassed by the way our continent had come to the point where basically we're sucking on the teat of America. Give us our defence budgets, keep us safe, please, Uncle Sam, and so on and so forth. So this is a redressing of the balance that is long overdue. But this presumably it will trigger a tariff war around the world. China's already responded.
Yeah,
the EU will respond. Do you think it will be that damaging?
No, I do not. And the best thing that the trading partners can do is not escalate the so-called trading war. It's not a war. The tariffs of the trading partners are much higher than American tariffs. So I don't know how this is a Trump trade war when it's completely unfair trade.
Yeah.
And so he's just leveling the playing field. He's just making it reciprocal. It's a word he likes to use a lot. And so, and you have a good point.
Right, here we go. He's on reciprocal tariffs.
Yep.
Go on, Donald.
Half of what they are and have been charging us. So the tariffs will be not a full reciprocal. I could have done that, yes, but it would have been tough for a lot of countries. We didn't want to do that. I'd like to see the chart if you have it. Could you bring it up, Howard? This is our great Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick. Thanks, Howard. So if you look at that, China, first row, China, 67%. That's tariffs charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers. So 67%, I think you can, for the most part, see it. Those with good eyes, with bad eyes. We didn't want to bring, it's very windy out here. We didn't want to bring out the big charts because it had no chance of standing. Fortunately, we came armed with a little smaller chart. So it's 67%, so we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less, so how can anybody be upset? They will be, because we never charge anybody anything, but now we're going to charge. European Union, they're very tough, very, very tough traders. You know, you think of European Union, very friendly. They rip us off. It's so sad to see. It's so pathetic. 39%, we're going to charge them 20%, so we're charging them essentially half. Vietnam, great negotiators, great people. They like me, I like them. The problem is they charge us 90%. We're going to charge them 46% tariff. Taiwan, where they took all of our computer chips and semiconductors. We used to be the king, right? We were everything. We had all of it. Now we have almost none of it, except the biggest company is coming in. We're going to end up with almost 40%. Lee Zeldin's working to get their approvals. And it's an amazing company. Mr. Wei, of one of the great companies of the world, actually. They're coming in from Taiwan, and they're going to build one of the biggest plants in the world, maybe the biggest for that. But 64%, we're going to charge them 32%. Japan, very, very tough, great people. And again, I don't blame the people for doing it. I think they're very smart in doing it. I blame the people that sat right in that Oval Office, right over there, right behind the Resolute desk or whichever desk they chose. Japan, 46%. They would charge us 46%, and much higher for certain items like cars, you know, little items like cars. 46% we're charging.
Greg, he's going through country by country, but we've spotted at the bottom the United Kingdom. He's going to charge us 10% tariffs, and we charge America 10% tariffs. So it's completely reciprocal, no discount for the special relationship.
Yeah, but that's the way it should be.
I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm just doing my job, relaying the facts.
No, I got it. But like, wouldn't it be great if all of the countries in the world, including the European Union, did that, right? 10%, fair enough. Make it 0. That would be great. Yeah. So I think this is a good moment for the UK. I really do.
Well, so we've got 34% on China, 20% on the EU, 46% on Vietnam, and he's working through his clipboard there. We have to go to break, but when we come back, we'll probably have a few more countries that are ready for you, so stick around.
When you're actually dealing with the individual people, always lovely doctors and nurses, I mean, well, most of the time, you know, and you feel like once you've got in, you've got a good service, and you felt some sympathy for them that they were working in a difficult circumstance.
That's right. And then after COVID, where nothing has returned, the services appear worse. You can't actually criticise it because then you're told, oh, well, you mustn't do that. It's a bastion of being British.
Doesn't stop us.
Absolutely ridiculous.
I think that ship, again, face the day, the ship has sailed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Donald Trump is going through country by country by country what tariffs he's imposing on them. China, 34%, or as he would say, China, 34%. The EU, 20%. Vietnam, 46%. But Britain, 10%. So hitherto, we have been charging America 10%, and them pretty much charging us not very much at all. Now we're going to have to reciprocate and pay America 10%. I'm an economic moron, as everybody's probably working out. Is that good news or bad news for us, Greg?
It's great news. I think this is a really good moment because, the president's been using the word reciprocal quite a bit, and that's all he's doing. He's just making it fair trade. It's been unfair trade for quite some time. The great news for the United Kingdom going into this, besides the cultural stuff and the fact that President Trump likes the UK, is that the UK and the US don't have a meaningful trade surplus or deficit with each other, whereas the EU has a $180 billion trade surplus, so it's a deficit for the U.S. We fund that every year by borrowing money. So basically the taxpayers, the U.S. taxpayer, has been funding the French and German six-week holiday and free health care and welfare state insanity for generations. And that's no longer sustainable because of our debt and our, the 11 trillion that was just added by Biden, the 36 trillion total. Interest rates are twice as high as they were 4 years ago. It really cannot continue. So this has to be fixed, whereas that wasn't that much to fix with the UK.
He's just announced, he said, if you want your tariffs, this is a message to all the countries of the world, including Britain. He said, if you want your tariffs to be zero, build your factories in America.
Yeah.
Do you think companies will? I mean,
they already are. And we've seen commitments of $4 trillion of foreign direct investment into the U.S. It's a no-brainer. And if the countries in Europe would liberate their economies, lower taxes, lower regulations, then I think companies would be happy to stay in Europe. But with energy prices 5 times, as I said earlier, 5 times for energy costs for a British business versus America, why wouldn't they move to America? The 15% corporate tax rate if things are built in America, immediate expensing of plant and equipment, new factories. So if I were a global company, an international company, of course I would move to America. It just makes economic sense. So if the countries here in Europe were smart, they would liberate their economies. They would cut spending. They would cut the welfare state. They would liberate the energy sector, most importantly. They probably won't do it, and they'll continue with the welfare state insanity, and America will do quite well.
Again, forgive my stupidity on a general basis, but these tariffs that he's imposing on, for us, for example, on Britain, 10%. Now it's reciprocal, 10% from them, 10% from us. Is this separate to the 25% we've been talking about on automobiles? Is that global, or are these tariffs encompassing?
It sounds like this is the new tariff regime. I think the 25% was possibly a threat, or it was a simple way to say across the board, this is what we're going to do. I think he's come out tonight and said, I have no advance notice on this, so I'm just seeing what you're saying.
None of us did. I mean, this is typical Donald. He loves this stuff. So what we're thinking here, we could be wrong, folks, trust me.
Don't quote me.
So there was this suspicion that he was going to impose a 25% tariff on every country in terms of automobile sales, cars. So we'd end up paying 25% to America for car sales. But Greg and I are thinking, we're not entirely sure, that the special tariff for automobiles is not encompassed in it, isn't involved in this. So he's actually talking about all products in different countries. So all products will be tariffed in China at 34%, all products EU, including cars, of course, 20%, and all products here in 10%. So do you know what tariffs? What was our tariff rate before? I mean,
I don't know the UK. I know the EU was charging a 10% tariff on American car imports to the EU, and the US was only charging 2.5%. So, you know, this could be an across the board on every industry. He's starting with country by country tonight. Maybe he gets to certain sectors later. I don't know that, but it sounds like so far these are country-by-country specific tariffs based on what they were charging or the tariffs they had in place against American trade. So, again, this is a good moment. Yes, the UK had higher tariffs and other trade barriers than we had, but it's now equal and it's not that crazy. It's 10%.
So it's not, is it? But, you know, we were not, in Trump's mind, the worst of the tariff criminals.
That's right. That's
we were
correct.
quite low compared with the EU. So, folks, one thing we can declare here is not being in the EU has been good for Britain in this moment. No doubt whatsoever about that. We'll have to work out exactly what 10% tariffs on all British goods will mean. And what the cost of that will be, and how that might be better for the car industry than the 25% tariff. It obviously would be. But as I say, these details, this is broadcasting in verite, folks. It's happening, you know, it's happening to you just as it's happened to us. So we're trying to work it out. Here's an interesting fact on the back of all of this, Greg. Meta, as in Facebook, Zuckerberg and all that, is investing $500 billion in car companies. Hyundai are also investing billions. So Meta and Hyundai really upping their investment in America. So that's what. So he's creating a sort of economic American stronghold that companies will be attracted to coming to, right?
That's right. You know, again, a 15% corporate tax is very attractive. You know, there are countries with lower tax. Yeah, well, not
I've
this
got a
country.
company, yeah.
I mean,
extreme. I'm off to America, folks.
And it will also revitalize the manufacturing sector in the U.S. So this is there's a couple of angles here, and I think he's hitting on all cylinders.
Okay.
And good for him.
We're going to go to break now, but I just will point out that although it could be worse, there has been no discount for Britain because of the alleged special relationship. He's basically treated every country the same, so we haven't been treated specially there. So we'll go to break now and come back for more of this historic speech.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Here's a good headline.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Again, we're trying to work this out as we go along. So Trump is still making this speech. It now looks as if, right, the BBC is saying, and we have to defer to the state broadcaster, of course, I'm sure they're right, that we will get 10% tariffs on all British goods sold to America. That's all, everything. But this 25%, there'll be, the whole world is going to get this 25% tariff on all foreign-made cars. So that will hit Britain hard. That will hit Britain hard. So all other products, 10%. That we flog to America, which is an upping of the ante, obviously. We weren't paying nearly as much as that. So that's quite a substantial rise. But rather damagingly, Greg, 25% on all foreign car sales in America. So that will hit Britain hard.
Yeah, I think so, and it's all kind of coming out in real time here. I just saw a headline from the Wall Street Journal. The U.S. will impose a 10% tariff on all imports and even higher rates on nations the White House considers bad actors on trade. So what's that's saying, back to our earlier point, the UK is not considered a bad actor. So you don't want to be India or Vietnam or China, that's for sure, or the EU. But I think for the most part, the UK is getting a good deal here. I need to.
I
think we need to learn more about the auto 25% tariffs on. That's maybe a bit.
Well, the BBC is saying that, and we know that he has said 10% on the UK. We for a while thought that meant there would be 10% tariffs on British car sales in America, 10%. But it looks like the cars around the world, that will be a special deal. Everybody's going to get 25%. So 25% on car sales, British manufactured cars in America, plus 10% on all other goods. You're right, Greg, it's a better deal than other countries, but it isn't something to break out the champagne about,
No, it's not perfect. But again, I think, Land Rover should build a plant in America if they haven't already. Because, what they have to understand is British cars are not competitive if they have to pay 5 times the energy costs that American businesses do. They're paying 40% more than the Germans, who are like climate fanatics, right? So there's no way that they can be competitive anyway. The most important input in just about every manufacturing industry is energy. And so I'm not sure they could compete anyway if they were smart. If I were a shareholder of Land Rover, I'd be opening a plant in a red state in America right now.
Yeah. So Meta's investing $500 billion into the States. Car companies like Hyundai are investing billions, and SoftBank, that's opening there as well.
That's right. Putting in a
so it's already taking effect. Listen, let's go to break and see if we can put our heads together during these messages. We'll be back in a moment.
actually dealing with the individual people, always lovely doctors and nurses. I mean, well, most of the time, you know, and you feel like once you've got in, you've got a good service, and you felt some sympathy for them that they were working in a difficult circumstance.
That's right. And then after COVID, where nothing has returned, the services appear worse. You can't actually criticise it because then you're told, oh, well, you mustn't do that. It's a bastion of being British.
Doesn't stop us.
Absolutely ridiculous.
I think that ship, again, phase the day, this ship has sailed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We've been trying to digest Donald Trump's historic speech at the White House about tariffs, Liberation Day. And it looks set to certainly make America economically stronger. It might not be that great for Britain, but it could be worse. As far as we can work out, don't hold us to this, 10% on all British sales in America. So everything British that's sold in America, there'll be a 10% tariff on. Hitherto, there's been next to no tariff. So that's reciprocal because we put a 10% tariff on all American goods that are sold here. But we think there's a sort of separate global deal for automobiles, which is 25%. So our cars that are sold in America will go at 25%. That could be tough for us.
Yeah, and I just saw that come over from the Wall Street Journal 29 minutes ago. So
we're right about
I think,
that.
We are right. You are right on that. Yeah, 25% on autos. Start building factories in Tennessee. But don't do it in a blue state.
It's not great. So, don't do that. But it's not. I mean, that will hit the car industry here hard.
Yeah, of course. I think it will. And these are, and I'm not sure what the tariffs are currently on imports to the U.S. or British car exports to the U.S. But I do think that the president is definitely looking out for the auto industry specifically. And it's really the backbone of American manufacturing or American industry. In the old days, you would just look at the autos every day. Like what the autos did, the big three, basically were the American economy. And so, is there some nostalgia there? Probably. I'm not sure what the end game is here. And maybe it's just another way to negotiate. And hopefully these tariffs will come down, as long as they come down on American cars that are exported to the world.
So he's saying we are going to pass the largest tax cuts in American history. If you build the car in America, you will get an interest rate tax deduction. I think that's about buying cars in America. There's going to be incentives to buy American cars. So again, that might hit our industry as well. But I think the sort of headline on this for Britain is, could have been worse. Make no mistake, we got a better deal than the EU, so leaving the EU has worked well for us here. But we haven't really, as a matter of fact, we haven't really got any particularly special concessions due to our special relationship.
I don't know about that. I mean, as I mentioned, the trade barriers from the UK against the US were not as significant as the EU, as China, as other countries. So maybe that was a better position. I would like to think that the special relationship means something.
I think it does. Don't get me wrong. And as I say, we got a better deal than the EU. So
no doubt.
There's definitely one more reason.
10% seems like a rounding error right now, given the tariffs put on other big trading partners. But I do think that there should be some emphasis. I'm not sure the Labour government is prepared to do this, but liberating the energy sector, cutting back on regulations. The regulatory burden in the UK is almost as bad as the EU, and so there's a lot of improvements that need to be made to the UK economy. And does a tariff on British exports or auto exports to the U.S., does that help? No, it doesn't right now. That's going to be a hit, but it might be the sign of things to come.
So Starmer and the gang, Keir and his crew, I think that Number 10 may have issued a statement at some point. Yeah, what is it? We've got a source at number... we're hearing from a source at number 10 Downing Street that the lower tariffs, quotes, vindicate our approach. I'm not sure what they mean by that, but I mean, as I say, I'm not sure what number 10 think they've actually achieved. It's 25% on British car sales and 10% on everything else. Vindicate your approach in what way? I mean, the point is, Starmer, as we speak, in fact, he spent all week getting together a list of concessions to offer to America, to offer to Trump. Say, look, these are the goods that will give you, zero tariff rates or really low tariff rates on if you reciprocate by giving us a very special. But they haven't really done that, have they?
It's all relative, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a good situation. 10% is great, and the 25%. That's across the board by President Trump. And I think what he likes to do is the same with the cost cutting in Washington when they just said, you know what, cut everything, right? If you want to make a case that your stuff should not be cut, make the case. And that's worked for some spending, specifically with USAID. So he's done the same thing here. Instead of, playing around at the margins, he's saying 25% tariffs on autos from anywhere. Yeah. And that can be negotiated. So I think there's room there. Yeah. I think this is good news.
He's hoping for two things there, isn't he? One that maybe British-based car manufacturers will relocate to America, which would be fantastic news for the United Kingdom. And two, that Americans buy American cars.
Right. I mean, it's a win-win in many ways. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, the auto industry is really critical for the American economy. But I do think it's an opportunity for the Brits. If Land Rover will be, the shareholders will be rewarded quite handsomely. The shareholders of Land Rover, many of whom I assume are British pension holders and the British public, will benefit from opening factories in America until the British economy is liberated, where it becomes profitable to start businesses or open factories here in the UK.
Just looking at India's 26% and Japan 24%. I mean, these are big trading companies. That'll change the dial a bit, won't it?
Absolutely, it will. And again, it's. I think the U.S. taxpayer has grown a bit tired of funding the welfare states of other countries.
I must say, Greg, when you look at the. He's just signing it now, by the way. We'll be here for another half an hour while he completes his elaborate signature. It is the most elaborate signature ever, which is just as well because he signs a lot of executive orders, doesn't he? So there it is. It's all signed off. Well, I mean, I must admit, though, to be fair, I mean, we'll moan about it. Oh, look what he's done to our car industry. Look what he's done to Britain. But when you look at it's slightly upsetting for other countries, but I mean, it's been ridiculously unfair to America.
Exactly.
Until now.
And it was fine.
Why did America ever let itself get into this position?
I think, after World War II, there was good reasons to support and help with the rebuilding. During the Cold War, the defending Europe was very much in the security interest of the United States. So there was a camaraderie with Britain, and especially with Mrs. Thatcher when Reagan was president, and they kind of won the Cold War together. Granted, maybe not apples and apples. It was apples and a small apple, but still, it was important. But the Cold War ended 35 years ago. And so it makes no sense for the American taxpayer to continue to fund the welfare states of Britain. And by the way, those are choices that the Europeans make. We would rather not support our defense and security. We'd rather give welfare to mass migration. We would rather not trade and have fair trade and equal trade We would rather have the U.S. taxpayer fund our trade surpluses with the United States and then fund, again, 6 weeks of holiday and free health care and everything else. It's stupid.
Exactly right, I mean, that's what annoys Americans. It comes down to the fact, we've got this sort of benefits crisis, welfare crisis. I think our entire welfare bill every year is over £300 billion or something ridiculous. And Americans look at us and say, well, why are you getting 6 weeks holiday a year? Why are so many of you on benefits? Why basically are we funding all of this? You want to do it, fine, but you pay for it yourself.
Don't make me pay for it. Right. I'm not. There's no judging. If your model is welfare state, you're going to redistribute money and wreck your economy, then go ahead. But we can't pay for that, and I think it's important to keep that in mind. And look, this might improve the economies ultimately in Europe.